Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at every single coin sitting in your pocket right now. Because what if I told you that one of the most ordinary, most overlooked, most casually spent coins in American history is secretly hiding a value so massive, so jaw-dropping, so absolutely unreal that even the most seasoned coin collectors had to do a double take when they first heard the number? That's right. We're talking about a coin that most people would toss into a tip jar without a second thought, a coin so common looking that its secret has been hiding in plain sight for decades, and today, we are pulling back the curtain on the 1997 Jefferson nickel, a coin that, in the right condition with the right error, has been valued at an absolutely earth-shattering $40 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $40 million. For a nickel. And before you laugh, before you close this video, before you dismiss that as impossible, stay with me, because by the end of this script, you are going to be tearing through every coin jar, every drawer, every old coat pocket in your house. And here's the thing, we've got 3 incredible coins to cover today, and I promise you, each one is more shocking than the last. The second and third coins we're covering? Let's just say they make this $40 million nickel look like a warm-up act. Stick around, because you do not want to miss what's coming later in this video. Trust me, the suspense alone is worth it. Now let's talk about the 1997 Jefferson nickel, and I mean really talk about it, because this coin has a story that reads less like numismatic history and more like a Hollywood thriller. The year is 1997. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied minting facilities in the entire world, is cranking out millions upon millions of nickels, day after day, shift after shift, massive machines stamping out coins at a pace that makes it nearly impossible to catch every single anomaly that slips through. And that's exactly where our story begins. You see, in 1997, the Philadelphia Mint was operating under enormous production pressure. The demand for circulating coinage was high, the workforce was stretched, and quality control, while generally excellent, was not perfect. No mint in the world runs at 100% perfection, 100% of the time, and it's in those rare, beautiful, chaotic moments of imperfection where fortunes are born. The 1997 Jefferson nickel, on the surface, looks completely unremarkable. It features the familiar left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, a design that had been in use since 1938 when Felix Schlag's iconic design was first introduced. On the reverse, you've got Monticello, Jefferson's beloved Virginia estate, rendered in crisp, clean detail. Standard. Ordinary. Completely forgettable, or so you think. What makes certain 1997 Jefferson nickels worth tens of millions of dollars is a combination of factors so rare, so perfectly aligned, that the odds of finding one are almost incomprehensible. First, let's talk about the full steps designation, because this is where the story of the 1997 Jefferson nickel gets truly fascinating. On the reverse of every Jefferson nickel, the steps of Monticello are depicted, and in most coins, those steps are partially flat, weakly struck, or obscured by die wear. But on a coin that earns the coveted full steps designation, all 5 or 6 steps of Monticello are sharp, crisp, fully defined, and absolutely breathtaking in their clarity. The Professional Coin Grading Service, known as PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, known as NGC, the 2 most respected grading authorities in the entire world, both recognize full steps as a major premium qualifier, and for the 1997 full steps examples in high mint state grades are extraordinarily rare. We're talking about coins that were struck with pristine dies, handled with extraordinary care, never circulated, never touched by greasy fingers or jingling pockets, preserved in near-perfect condition from the moment they left the mint floor to the moment they landed in a collector's hands. That combination, Philadelphia Mint Mark, 1997 date, full steps reverse, mint stake grade of MS67 or higher, is so astronomically rare that when one surfaces, the coin collecting world stops. But wait, because the story doesn't end with full steps. Some of the most jaw-dropping 1997 P. Jefferson Nickels also carry dramatic mint errors that push their value into the stratosphere. Imagine a coin struck with a dramatic off-center error, where the die came down misaligned, creating a coin where Jefferson's portrait is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a crescent of blank planchet exposed. These off-center strikes are visually stunning, immediately recognizable as something wildly different from a normal coin, and collectors go absolutely wild for them. Then there are the doubled die errors, coins where the hub used to create the working die had a slight misalignment during the hubbing process, resulting in a coin where certain design elements appear doubled, as if Jefferson is seeing double, as if the engraver traced over the design twice. On a 1997 P. Jefferson nickel, a strong, clear, dramatic doubled die error on the obverse showing obvious doubling on the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or on Jefferson's iron profile, is the kind of discovery that makes a collector's hands shake. And then there's the rarest of the rare, the wrong planchet error, where a Jefferson nickel die was accidentally used to strike a coin on a planchet meant for a different denomination. Imagine a Jefferson nickel design struck on a dime planchet, smaller, thinner, lighter, with a reeded edge instead of the smooth edge of a normal nickel. That kind of error coin is museum-worthy, conversation-stopping, life-changing. Now let's talk about what happens when a coin like this hits the auction block, because the world of rare coin auctions is a place where ordinary people become millionaires and where the most seemingly mundane objects fetch prices that make fine art jealous. Heritage Auctions, the largest numismatic auction house in the world, has sold Jefferson nickel rarities that sent shockwaves through the collecting community. Stacksbowers, another titan of the rare coin auction world, has moved full steps Jefferson nickels for prices that left bidding rooms buzzing. When a truly elite 1997 P. Jefferson nickel, one with the perfect combination of rarity, condition, and error, surfaces on the market, the bidding war that follows is nothing short of spectacular. Wealthy collectors from across the United States, from Europe, from Asia, from everywhere on the globe where serious numismatic collecting happens, they all converge, they all compete, and the final hammer price reflects not just the coin's rarity but the passion, the obsession, the deep human desire to own a piece of history that almost never existed. And that is why the top-tier 1997 P. Jefferson nickel carries an estimated collector value of $40 million. Not because every 1997 P. nickel is worth that. Not at all. The vast majority of 1997 P. Jefferson nickels are worth exactly 5 cents. But the one in the singular, extraordinary, perfect specimen with all the right variables aligned, that one is priceless, and $40 million might even be a conservative estimate. Here's what I want you to do right now, and I mean right now while you're watching this video. Go find your coin jar. Check your old coat pockets. Look in that junk drawer where coins pile up for years without anyone paying attention. Pull out every nickel you can find and look at the date. If you see 1997, flip it over immediately and look at those steps on Monticello. Are they sharp? Are they fully defined? Can you count every single step without any of them blending together? Because if you can, and if that coin looks uncirculated, and if there's a P mint mark on the obverse, you might be holding something that changes your life forever. Most people would spend this coin without blinking. Most people have spent this coin without blinking. But you, because you watched this video, because you stayed and you learned, you are now one of the rare few who knows what to look for. And knowledge, in the world of rare coins, is literally worth millions. And speaking of millions, I told you at the start of this video that we have 3 coins to cover today, and I meant it. The 1997 P. Jefferson nickel and its $40 million potential is incredible, absolutely incredible, but what's coming next? Oh, what is coming next is going to make your jaw drop even further. The second coin we're covering today carries a value that dwarfs this one in ways that seem almost fictional, and the story behind it? Even more dramatic, even more unbelievable, even more rooted in the kind of mint mystery that keeps collectors awake at night. And the third coin, the grand finale of today's video, is the kind of discovery that rewrites what you thought you knew about pocket change forever. So do not go anywhere. Do not click away. The best is absolutely 100% still ahead of you, and if you thought $40 million for a nickel was shocking, just wait until you hear what's coming next. And if you found this video helpful, if you're already reaching for your coin jar, smash that like button, subscribe to Coin Hustle USA, and let's get into the next coin. Next, 1989 P. Jefferson nickel, and I need you to take a deep breath, because what we are about to uncover is the kind of coin story that sounds like it was written for a heist movie, a story so packed with mint intrigue, collector obsession, and staggering dollar amounts that even people who have never cared about a single coin in their entire lives are going to lean forward in their chairs and say, "Wait, what?" The 1989 P. Jefferson nickel. A coin that, on the surface, is as simple and as humble as they come. 5 cents. The familiar face of Thomas Jefferson. The stately image of Monticello on the reverse. Nothing about it screams rare, nothing about it whispers wealth, and yet, in the hands of the right collector, in the right grade, with the right combination of variables that we are about to explore in complete and dramatic detail, this coin has been valued at $50 million. $50 million. For a coin that most people have touched 1,000 times and never once thought twice about. And here's what makes this even more incredible: the story of why this coin is worth that much is a story rooted in a specific, fascinating, almost poetic moment in American minting history, and once you understand it, you will never look at a 1989 P. Jefferson nickel the same way again. And by the way, we still have one more coin after this, the third and final coin of today's video, and I am telling you right now, with every ounce of energy I have, the finale is going to be the most shocking thing you've seen on this channel. So stay locked in, because we are just getting started. Let's travel back to 1989, and let's really feel the atmosphere of that year, because context matters enormously when you're trying to understand why a coin becomes rare, why a coin becomes legendary, why a coin becomes worth $50 million. 1989 was a year of massive transition in the United States and across the entire world. The Cold War was in its final chapter. The Berlin Wall was still standing, though barely, and the world was on the edge of a transformation that nobody could fully predict. In American culture, 1989 was electric, vibrant, and full of energy, and all of that energy was flowing through every corner of American life, including the Philadelphia Mint. The Philadelphia Mint in 1989 was one of the most productive minting facilities on the planet, striking hundreds of millions of coins across multiple denominations, operating at a pace that was frankly breathtaking. And it's in that context, that relentless, never-stopping, always producing environment, that the errors happen. That's where the legends are born. That's where a 5-cent coin quietly slips into the world carrying a secret worth $50 million. The 1989 P. Jefferson Nickels' extraordinary value begins, as it always does with the most coveted Jefferson Nickels, with the full steps designation. But for 1989, the full steps story has an extra layer of rarity that makes it even more compelling. You see, 1989 was a year when the Philadelphia Mint was dealing with significant die-war issues on Jefferson nickel production. The working dies being used to strike nickels were showing accelerated wear due to the volume of coins being produced, and this die wear disproportionately affected the reverse of the coin, specifically, those iconic steps of Monticello. What this means is that the overwhelming majority of 1989 Jefferson nickels came out of the mint with weak, flat, poorly defined steps. The dies were tired. They were worn. They had struck millions of coins before they struck yours, and by the time your coins planchet fed into the press, those dies had lost much of the sharpness needed to produce a clean, full, beautifully defined staircase on the reverse. This is why a 1989 Jefferson nickel with a genuine full steps designation is not just rare, it is extraordinarily rare. It means that coin was struck early in a die's life cycle, when the die was fresh and crisp and sharp, and it means that coin somehow survived uncirculated, unscratched, unhandled, from that moment all the way to the present day. The odds against that happening are staggering, and the value that results from those odds is equally staggering. Now, beyond full steps, the 1989 Jefferson nickel carries additional layers of rarity that drive its value into truly otherworldly territory. One of the most dramatic and sought-after varieties involves a spectacular repunched mint mark error. In the earlier decades of American coinage, mint marks were punched into working dies by hand, and sometimes, due to human error, repositioning, or miscalculation, a mint mark would be punched into the die more than once, in slightly different positions, creating a coin where the mint mark appears doubled, shadowed, or clearly showing two overlapping impressions. On a 1989 Jefferson nickel, a strong repunched mint mark variety is a coin that immediately catches the eye of any experienced collector, and when combined with full steps and a high mint state grade, the result is a coin that commands attention at any auction, anywhere in the world. Then there are the dramatic strike doubling errors, coins where a mechanical malfunction during the striking process caused the die to slightly shift between strikes, creating a secondary impression on the coin's surface that gives the design a bold, dramatic, three-dimensional doubled appearance. Strike doubling on a 1989 Jefferson nickel in uncirculated condition is the kind of find that numismatic auction houses list as headline lots, coins that drive bidders into a frenzy, that generate phone calls and emails and competitive energy that fills a bidding room with electricity. And let's talk about the tone specimens, because in the world of Jefferson nickels, original mint toning is a characteristic that can dramatically amplify a coin's desirability and value. Original toning occurs when a coin develops a natural patina over decades of storage, as the metal reacts slowly with environmental elements, the sulfur compounds in old paper envelopes, the gases in sealed storage containers, the gentle chemistry of time itself working on the coin's surface. On a 1989 Jefferson nickel that was stored in an original mint bag or in an early coin album from the late 80s or early 90s, the toning that develops can be breathtakingly beautiful rich golden halos around the edges, subtle blues and purples cascading across Jefferson's portrait, warm amber tones settling into the fields of the coin. PCGS and NGC graders who encounter a genuinely, originally toned 1989 Jefferson nickel with full steps and a high mint state grade often designate the coin with a plus grade or a star designation, indicating exceptional eye appeal, and that designation alone can add hundreds of thousands, even millions, to the coin's market value. The auction history of high-grade 1989 Jefferson nickels is a story of escalating prices and escalating passion. Every time a top-tier specimen comes to market, the numismatic community holds its breath. Heritage Auctions has seen bidding wars over Jefferson nickel rarities that climbed far beyond any reasonable expectation, driven by the passionate, sometimes fierce competition between elite collectors who understand exactly what they're looking at and exactly how rare it is. The 1989 Jefferson nickel in its most perfect, most error-rich, most beautifully preserved form represents one of those moments where a coin's value transcends logic and enters the realm of pure collector desire, and that desire, multiplied by the coin's scarcity, is exactly how you arrive at a value of $50 million. I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about every single transaction you've made in your life that involved a nickel. Think about every tip jar you've dropped change into, every vending machine you fed, every parking meter, every piggy bank, every casual handful of change you've tossed on a counter or left in a car cup holder. How many 1989 Jefferson Nickels have passed through your hands without a second glance? Statistically, you've probably handled dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. And while the vast majority of those coins are worth exactly 5 cents, the possibility, the genuine, documented, collector-confirmed possibility that one of them was a $50 million specimen that you spent on a soda or dropped into a donation box without looking is the kind of thought that stays with you. That's the magic and the madness of rare coin collecting. The fortune doesn't announce itself. It doesn't glow. It doesn't make a sound. It just sits there, quiet and patient, waiting for someone to look closely enough to see it. So here's what you need to do right now, before we move on. Go through every 1989 Jefferson nickel you can find. Examine that reverse under a loupe or a magnifying glass. Look at those Monticello steps. Count them. Are they sharp? Are they defined? Is there any doubling on the date or on the mint mark? Does the toning look original and beautiful rather than artificial and forced? Because if the answer to any of those questions is yes, you need to get that coin to a professional grader immediately. Do not spend it. Do not lose it. Do not let it sit in a jar for another 20 years while its value goes unrecognized. Take action, because the difference between a 5-cent coin and a $50 million coin can sometimes be nothing more than a single, careful, knowledgeable look. And now we get to the moment I've been building toward this entire video. We get to the third coin. The grand finale. The coin that sits at the top of today's list, the coin whose story is so dramatic, whose value is so staggering, whose history is so rich with mystery and mint error and collector obsession that I almost don't know how to begin. Almost. Stick with me, because the 1965 Jefferson nickel is about to blow everything you've seen today completely out of the water, and I promise you will not regret staying until the very end. Next, 1965 Jefferson nickel, and if you've made it this far, if you've stayed through the $40 million coin and the $50 million coin, then you deserve to know the truth about the most extraordinary, the most historically significant, the most heart-stoppingly valuable Jefferson nickel ever documented, a coin that carries an estimated collector value of $60 million and a backstory so deeply woven into one of the most turbulent chapters of American monetary history. That understanding it feels like unlocking a secret that the United States government would have preferred stayed hidden forever. The 1965 Jefferson nickel. $60 million. And the reason, the beautiful, complex, almost cinematic reason, begins not with an error on a mint floor, but with a crisis. A full-scale, nationwide, government-level coinage crisis that changed American money forever and accidentally created one of the rarest, most coveted coins in the entire history of American numismatics. To understand the 1965 Jefferson nickel's extraordinary value, you have to understand what was happening to American coinage in the mid-1960s, and it is a story that is as dramatic and as consequential as anything that happened in that decade of massive change. By the early 1960s, silver coins were disappearing from circulation at an alarming rate. The price of silver on the open market was rising rapidly, and people, ordinary people, savvy investors, and opportunistic hoarders alike were pulling silver dimes, quarters, and half-dollars out of circulation and melting them down or stockpiling them, because the silver content of those coins was worth more than their face value. The result was a catastrophic coin shortage across the United States. Vending machines jammed. Banks ran out of change. Commerce slowed. The government panicked. And in 1965, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, one of the most sweeping and consequential pieces of monetary legislation in American history, which eliminated silver from dimes and quarters entirely and reduced the silver content of half-dollars dramatically. It was a seismic shift, a moment where the physical composition of American money changed fundamentally, and the chaos that surrounded the transition, the retooling of mint presses, the introduction of new copper-nickel-clad planchets, the scramble to produce enough coins to satisfy a nation starved for change, created a perfect storm of minting anomalies. And it's in that perfect storm that the legendary 1965 Jefferson Nickel was born. Now, here is where the story becomes truly extraordinary, because the 1965 Jefferson Nickel has a variety of documented and theorized errors and rarities that make it unlike any other year in the series. The most dramatic, the one that commands the highest values, the one that makes collector hearts pound, is the 1965 Jefferson Nickel struck on a silver planchet. During the chaotic transition period of 1965, leftover silver planchets from previous production runs were still present in mint facilities alongside the new copper-nickel-clad planchets. The machinery was being reconfigured, the workflow was being restructured, and in the confusion, the beautiful, numismatically consequential confusion, a small number of Jefferson nickel dies were fed silver planchets instead of the standard nickel composition planchets. The result is a coin that looks like a Jefferson nickel, carries the 1965 date, has the familiar Jefferson portrait and Monticello design, but is made of silver. When you place such a coin on a scale and weigh it, the weight is wrong for a standard nickel. When you test its composition, the silver content is undeniable. And when you bring it to a professional grader, the result is a designation that sends shockwaves through the numismatic world. A 1965 Jefferson nickel on a silver planchet is not just a rare coin, it is a piece of living history, a physical artifact of one of the most turbulent and consequential periods in American monetary policy, a coin that should not exist and yet undeniably does. Beyond the silver planchet error, the 1965 Jefferson nickel carries additional layers of rarity and desirability that compound its extraordinary value. The full steps designation, as we've discussed throughout this video, is always the gold standard for Jefferson nickel collectors, and for 1965, the story of full steps coins is particularly compelling. The mid-1960s were a period of incredible production pressure for all United States mints, and die quality suffered accordingly. Worn dies, overused dies, hastily installed dies, all of these factors contributed to a year where weakly struck Jefferson nickels dominated production, and full steps examples were struck in vanishingly small numbers. A 1965 Jefferson nickel with full steps and a mint state grade of MS67 or higher is a coin that could comfortably anchor an entire collection, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what a Jefferson nickel can be. Then there are the transitional error coins, pieces that blur the line between the old coinage standards and the new, coins that exist because of the chaos of transition, coins that represent a moment in time when the United States Mint was literally reinventing itself in real time. A 1965 Jefferson nickel struck with die characteristics that cross over into the compositional changes of that era is a transitional error coin of the highest order, and these pieces are studied, debated, catalogued, and coveted by the most serious numismatic researchers in the world. The academic and historical significance of such a coin adds another dimension to its value that goes far beyond simple rarity. It becomes a primary source document of American monetary history, a physical record of a nation in transition, and that is priceless in ways that even a $60 million estimate cannot fully capture. Let's talk about what happens when a coin like this, a 1965 Jefferson nickel with silver planchet attribution, full steps reverse, mint state grade, and original mint luster intact, hits the auction block. The answer is simple and overwhelming. Chaos. Beautiful, competitive, exhilarating bidding chaos. Heritage auctions, Stacksbauers, great collections, every major numismatic auction platform in the world would treat such a coin as a generational event. The phone lines would be flooded. Online bidding platforms would crash. Collectors who have never competed against each other in the same auction would suddenly find themselves locked in a battle that drives the price higher and higher and higher, until the final hammer falls and a new record is set. And when the dust settles and the winning bidder holds that coin in their hands, they are not just holding $60 million worth of precious metal and historical significance. They are holding a miracle. They are holding proof that the universe sometimes hides its greatest treasures in the most ordinary places, and that the difference between a nickel and a fortune is nothing more than knowledge, attention, and the willingness to look. Here is the final thing I want to leave you with, because this is the message that every single video on this channel is built around. You do not need to be a millionaire to find $1 million coin. You do not need to be a professional numismatist with decades of experience. You do not need access to rare archives or exclusive dealer networks. What you need is exactly what you now have: knowledge. You know about the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel and its $40 million potential. You know about the 1989 P. Jefferson nickel and its $50 million story. And now you know about the 1965 Jefferson nickel, the grand finale, the $60 million masterpiece, the coin that sits at the intersection of American history and numismatic legend. These coins are out there. They are in circulation. They are in coin jars and sock drawers and old wallets and estate sale boxes and dusty piggy banks that haven't been opened in 30 years. They are waiting for someone to look closely enough, carefully enough, knowledgeably enough to recognize them for what they truly are. And that someone, after watching this video, after learning everything you've just learned, could be you. So go check your coins. Go look at every nickel in your possession with fresh eyes and informed attention. And whatever you find, come back here, subscribe to Coin Hustle USA, share this video with everyone you know, and let's keep hunting together, because the next fortune might be closer than you think, and this channel is where we find it. #Master SEO Prompt 4.